Okay, folks, welcome back to DM Radio Roadshow, broadcasting live from the show floor here at TDWI Las Vegas. And with me is a guy who got, I believe it was the Cool Technology Award from Gartner last year, Jon Woodward from NeutrinoBI. Welcome to DM Radio.
Good afternoon, Eric.
So let's talk about what you guys do, because it's very, very interesting. I've followed this space now for about 15 years, and let's face it, there is just an abundance of awesome technology in the information management space, whether it's data access, data aggregation, data warehousing, all kinds of analytics. And as you know, you can slice and dice data countless different ways. But what you guys do, it seems to me, is you provide this sort of overarching lattice through which someone can do search and discovery as a way of enabling that ad hoc query that can crawl across multiple systems, right?
That's right. So, I mean, essentially we try to sit in two different camps. So the original premise behind the company was to try and fuse early search technology, being able to just type in a natural language search and have that interrogate structured data and return in real time visualizations that the end user can start that discovery process. So that's the real premise behind the company.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you did that. I mean, what have you done? I know some stuff is proprietary, but what have you done to enable, let's start with the natural language search. How does that convert into whatever protocol is necessary, whether it's SQL or something else? How does that work?
So again, we take a slightly different approach. So we've been in R&D 4 or 5 years, and we launched February 2012. And we spent a long time in engineering really trying to understand how we can ensure that when you type in a natural language query, you're not converting to SQL. We didn't want that approach of converting to SQL, because that's quite limiting in many respects. So when we connect to a data source, we do some fairly clever fusion techniques to produce an index layer. And when you then type in your query, we're talking to our proprietary index layer rather than converting to SQL. So we're bypassing that whole aspect.
That's interesting. So let's talk about the management of that layer then, because I understand what you're saying. You connect to a new data source, you pull out some metadata, you manage that metadata in a certain way. What kind of visibility does the organization have into what is stored in that metadata layer, and how much can they refine connections, for example, or bifurcate things, or what can you do there? Yeah.
So I mean, we're another premise behind the company is to try and make it the most easiest way to integrate your data. So we've worked really hard to make sure that when you connect to a data source, whether that be Oracle, SQL, Cognitio, Teradata, that we use a native adapter. So what that means is that when we're not talking just answer SQL. So we can actually leverage the power and the functions of that native data source. So that's fairly clever.
Right.
But also what it allows us to do, what we don't do that's different, we don't pull all the data off the data source.
Right.
So if you've got a 200 terabyte database, we will talk to the data source, leverage the power of the server that exists there, and pull back a very thin slice, an aggregate layer, back to our server. So we're not duplicating data all over the place.
Right. That's very interesting, and you sparked an idea in my head here, which is to say that in traditional data warehousing, of course, you pull all kinds of data out, and you're trying to make all that data conform to a very specific construct. And in doing that, you gain various benefits like speed of query, speed of access, and that kind of thing, but you lose context a lot of times. And I'm guessing in your method, you're able to preserve some of that context that traditional data warehousing methods would lose. Is that a fair assessment?
Agreed. I mean, when we pull in multiple different data sources, we produce an index of that data source, and then we allow our search technology to search over all those different indexes in real time. So we don't have to bring it into a canonical data format at all.
That's interesting. And I'm guessing that also puts you in a very strategic position for being able to synthesize traditional relational data and all this new stuff called big data, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're currently operating only on structured and semi-structured data, so we're not playing in the completely unstructured space, other than through partners. So we talk with Teradata and Astrodata, and which provides that structure. But I mean, a lot of the companies we're talking to haven't really worked out what those use cases or edge cases are for fully unstructured.
Sure, of course.
You know, so
it's very nascent.
It's exactly. So our focus is really on making it very simple to take lots of different data sources and just mash them together and search over the top of them in seconds.
Right. And let's talk about the unification of search and discovery, because search, it's interesting, I've followed search technology now in the enterprise space for, I guess, about 15 years, and I've always been fascinated at why it just never took off. It seems like it's a great idea. You would think that it would be very powerful and useful, but for various reasons, it never really became the juggernaut that I personally thought it would become, and I think it's because they didn't have that combination of search and discovery. Could you talk about what you've done to bring those things together?
Will do. So, you know, I mean, the premise of being able to type in a natural language search is one thing, but as you say, that's only valuable if what you return is something that is easily understandable to the end user.
Right.
So what we've done is when you type in your search, it returns a visualization, whether that be a chart or a map or a gauge, and that is then immediately able to be dropped onto the canvas to be worked with. So rather than having some complex approach or development, the end user can just drag a visualization, merge the visualizations together, integrate them together, you know, and it's that experience. And
right. Well, so what you've done that I think is really quite fascinating is you've solved this unity problem or unification or mashup problem on the other side, right? So if you think about what data warehousing does, it's trying to accomplish the same goal, arguably, of being able to get a consolidated view, or the classic term, that 360-degree view of a customer or a product line or a business line or whatever the case may be. And what happened? Well, the blessing and curse of competition and innovation is that you get heterogeneity. You get all of these different applications, all of these different data types, all of these different data models, data structures, so on and so forth, and trying to, via the plumbing, connect all that stuff together is not easy to do.
No.
I mean, you certainly can do it, and there are many use cases when you want to use, for example, a messaging technology to deliver information, where you want to do application integration, where you could do any number of different things. But what you've done is provided, from what I can tell, and I'm not fully versed in the product, but what you seem to have done is found a very elegant way of having a lens that takes into consideration all of these different data sources, and then enabling the analyst to, as you say, mix and match these different data sets to get more of a complete view, right? Yeah,
so, I mean, a lot of people, when we talk to them, come up with the analogy that we are a virtual, data virtualization layer that sits across. But we're not a data virtualization layer that takes all the data up.
Right.
We take that thin slice from all of them,
right,
and only when you want to drill down into atomic level data,
right,
do you then go back to source,
right,
which is a fairly minor use case. You know,
right.
It doesn't happen that often.
Right.
So you can work at the aggregate level for most of the time.
Let's talk about some of the use cases that your customers have done. Let's just, off the top of your head, what are some interesting things that customers have been able to ascertain by, for example, pinching together two data sets, as you suggest, or by doing these natural language queries? What are some interesting things they've done? So,
I mean, by doing natural language, I'll cover both points. By doing natural language, what we do, very similar to Google and Bing, we offer up the answer, but then we offer up a series of discoveries.
Oh.
So you know, we're not just answering one question.
Right.
We're answering potentially thousands of questions,
right,
in one set of visualizations. So that's one way that anomalies and different questions can pop up. So we have, you could ask a question, tell me the sales of, cars in the UK, and it will answer that question, and the first chart that pops up will be that one.
Right.
But it will also give you a series of other charts in different countries, by different geographies, by different car types.
That's interesting.
And you can then just mix and match your charts and visualizations as you go.
And then what you wind up with is that, as one vendor would call it, I know you're not doing exactly what they're doing, but I love the term, and I think it applies to what you're doing, that guided navigation.
Yeah.
Right? Because really it is navigation. You're navigating through snapshots or depictions of various parts of your enterprise. And what you just said there strikes me as being very compelling because, let's face it, analysts and even line of business managers will have a hunch, okay? You know there's something going on. You're like, and sometimes it's very obvious. Sales are down in Detroit, okay? So what are we going to do about that? And you'll think, well, what's been happening there? So with this natural language query, you can bring out a whole variety of things that may be the answer.
Exactly.
Right? And
even if it's not the question you asked.
Right.
Which is a powerful
tangential,
piece.
right?
Exactly.
Because what you're doing is you're accessing this metadata layer, and through that metadata layer, it's percolating out, if you will, different relevant or potentially relevant windows into what's happening, right?
Yeah. And I suppose the second point is once those visualizations are being returned and you've got these on the canvas, you can then start to take very quick and easy decisions or hypotheses. So you could take a chart from Salesforce.com that's come from there, from the cloud. You could take an Excel, a chart that's come from Excel, and one from your data warehouse, and literally integrate them on the fly, on the canvas, to produce a new visualization with no developers involved.
Right. Yeah, that's the other side of the equation, too, is that by enabling that drag and drop pinch style environment, that to me empowers the business analyst with what we call conversational analytics, right? Where you're having a conversation with the data, because let's face it, if you hit a wall somewhere and realize, oh man, I need to call IT, I need them to join these data sets, it turns out your IT manager in that space is on vacation, his counterpart can't remember how to do it. I mean, and it's done. That analytical thread is gone.
That's right.
Yeah,
no, agreed. So we find a lot of our customers are using it for that process to either sandbox. So I mean, a lot of our customers are Fortune 500 enterprise clients that are very mature in BI. They've got, they'll have all the mega vendors in, they'll have all the all the major players, they'll have consultancy firms in. What they don't have is a very simple and easy way of searching and discovering, without having to build an application that's not constraining them.
Right. Now, are you also seeing that your product gets used as a way of optimizing the hardlined or hardwired infrastructure? Meaning companies will say, wow, we're seeing that these data sets are coming up often. Why don't we go ahead and do some plumbing underneath? Yeah.
So sandboxing is definitely what we've seen some of our customers use it for. So they, you'll work with a BI team that is building a data warehouse. And it's very easy for them to use our tool to start to build up, exactly what questions do we need to answer, what data do we need in the data warehouse. Afterwards our tool will then be, either dropped or used as an overarching search capability. So it kind of depends which way they're going.
Well, and you also, the other neat thing is it winds up being a discovery tool to help business analysts understand what data sets they have and what's in those data sets.
That's
right? Because stuff will come up that they didn't even know about.
Exactly.
Because in a large organ, especially Fortune 500, there is so much stuff going on. There's no way that you can know every new system, every new data set, every new data mart, whatever the case may be. And because you've got that interesting metadata layer, stuff will just pop up and you'll, wow, what is this new data set? And you start exploring down that thread.
But also we can add alerts to these things. So if you've created a search and you want to add an alert to that, so when new data comes in that now matches that search, it will then tell you that, maybe you should have a look at this. So, very much like Google Alerts, I suppose, in that sort of approach.
That's great.
So, we're really trying to have a conversation, like you say, make your data live.
Right. So where can someone go to learn more about that stuff?
So, we're a company in the UK, expanding rapidly, moving to the US. At the show floor, I think we're at stand 210. But you can also go to our website.
NeutrinoBI.com. That sounds good. Well, folks, we've been talking to Jon Woodward, NeutrinoBI, Cool Vendor of the Year, according to Gartner, and I got to tell you, it's interesting stuff, so check it out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. All right, folks, we'll be right back.